All right, shalom, everyone. And the crowd went wild. All 10 of you. Okay. All right. So, welcome to tonight's Torah study. We're very excited to be continuing our journey here through the book of Numbers, the book of Bimidbar. And we have George over there on the live stream desk today with David Hayes when he gets back. Okay, so that'll be two people back there. And I'm sure we'll have Kurt and Rob on there as well, helping to maintain the chat room. Okay, for any of you that are new, we'll walk you through this easily and gently. We'll be gentle with you on your first time through with us, on your journey through the studying with us. All right, so tonight, as we go through the Torah study, we're going to do things in this order. We're going to start off with prayer. So we'll take up any prayer needs, praise reports, etc. within our congregation, both here locally and at large on the virtual, through the internet here, through YouTube. We'll also be then reading the Torah portion, and so we'll have people come up and take turns reading, and then we'll go ahead and do some announcements, and then we'll discuss the Torah portion. So in preparation for the all-important discussion at the end, you may want to have something to make notes on, whether it's on your phone or on a paper in the old traditional way with a pen and paper or whatever you want to do, just to mark down maybe a verse that you want to ask a question about or make a comment on, etc. Okay? So just be prepared for that as we get through the study. All right, so we're going to start off again with prayer time. So we'll start with people here locally for their prayer needs, and then we'll go over to the live stream desk because we have to give a chance here for George and David to kind of start noting down prayer and praise. Those of you that are on the live stream, we're very excited to have you on with us. We also ask that if you're new, that you, and we're not going to presume that you wouldn't, but that you are respectful of the fact that you're a guest here in our congregational study. Some of you are regular participants and are part of the group more officially, I suppose, whatever that means. But just understand that this is not a forum for argument. This is not a forum for debate. This is a place to study the Word and be going through an organized structural study of the Word. And so please, this is not a place to push any particular understanding or agenda. Okay, and I ask that you would especially respect the leadership of Rob and Kurt, who would be in the room, as well as David and George, as they try to maintain some semblance of order in the chat room. Okay? Excellent. All right, so I hope everybody's doing well, and we're ready to get started. Is there anybody that has a praise or prayer would like to come up to the mic? Okay, I'll start, because my wife's not going to come up. But I do have a prayer and a praise. Okay, praise is that although we had a little physical snafu earlier today, my daughter and my wife both had falls, but the praise is that they both seem to be doing well, so we'll continue to pray for them. Had a little spill today on a staircase, but both Brianna and Rebitson seem to be doing okay. Just be a little gentler with her as you go try to give her a hug or something at the moment. But praise, yeah, nothing really bad came out of that, except it was a pretty good spill. Okay? Did you have something, Rick? Okay, Rick, come on up.
Shalom. I just have a praise report. The hand is healing well, and physical therapy is going well. So praise Yah that bodies heal, that He made them that way. Prayer request, Kevin Shutt is now in a nursing home, back at the same nursing home he was at. I was transferred there from the hospital on Monday, but his wife can't see him unless, just from outside the building in the weather through his window. He desperately wants to go home and just be put on morphine at this point. So if y'all would keep him and Linda in prayer, I'd appreciate that.
Well, I figured out how they could fix that problem. They just have to have a protest at the nursing home. Then she can there won't be any social distancing. It won't be a problem. And apparently that overrides any of that stuff. So just tell her to do a protest, bring a sign, and she'll be able to, get past all those things. I'm kidding, of course. That could help too. All right. Anybody else here? Okay. So, David, George, you have something ready to go, or do I need to stall a little bit? Because I could do either one. Stall a little bit? Okay. So I do want us to pray for all those that have asked for prayer since the last time we got together, which was on Shabbat. I do want us to continue praying for Manny. Manny had surgery on Friday and did very well, but he's still recovering, and it was quite a little ordeal. Even though things went well, it's still a recovery process. So, but being who he is, he's been working and trying to answer phone calls and answer emails and things while recovering, and so we really appreciate his steadfast commitment to serving the body. Okay, so that's something we're very appreciative of. Okay, I want to give a praise report for the leadership meetings that we had on Sunday. Okay, so this is we've been doing them like every 2 weeks lately, so this is our every 2 weeks meeting. And things continue to be challenging in South Africa. Okay, so please continue to keep them in your prayers. It is a very dangerous place to live right now. Okay, it's not the only dangerous place on the planet, but it's a very dangerous place. Okay, there are all kinds of riotings and murders and things like that going on a regular basis, almost daily basis. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You're not seeing that on your news because our news doesn't care about those things, so they're not going to tell you about those terrible things that are happening there. Okay, but they're much more distracted with other things. But keep them in prayer. Also, it also makes it much more difficult for those that would like to come into organized belief and worship of Yah to come and do that. If it was not as much upheaval there, and we're not even just talking about COVID-19, that was the least of their problems. As a matter of fact, in some ways, it slowed things down a little bit and quieted things down because they kind of put everything on lockdown. It didn't shut it down completely, but it got a little better for a little while, or at least stabilized, but that's not really the case much at this point. But if it had been able to stay, somewhat safer and stable, I could have gone down there and we could have really just, really had I think a tremendous amount of success planting and developing congregations in that area. There's a lot of people that are interested. What it lacks is the cohesive leadership structure. The guys that are there are developing really well into leadership, and we're very proud of them. At this point, they don't have a lot of people to lead. Okay? A lot of people have sort of just run off independently and on their own. See, here's the problem. Okay? Mini sermon number 1. Okay, so here's the problem. The problem is I can talk about structure, but I'm talking about it from a point and place of, or a position of having structure that someone could come in and taste of. It's another thing for somebody to talk about structure and there isn't any structure really there yet, because maybe it is one person, so it's not much of a structure. You understand what I'm saying? So it helps to have some other piece of the structure come in and demonstrate and show, hey, look, I'm part of the structure that person is under and within that structure, etc. And so this is really an advantage we have here that some places don't have, is that, it's one thing to talk about being in a structure, and even saying, well, we're in MTOI, we're part of their structure. Well, who's MTOI? We never see them, and they're, however many thousand miles away across the big oceans and that kind of stuff. So that makes it even more challenging. So it really does help if I can get to go. So let's pray that at some point their government and their country could stabilize enough so I could get back there. Because it's going on almost 3 years since I went. It was November 2.5 years ago. So it's a long time. Okay? Now, here's the praise is that we have a few leaders that we've been working with since November then, and those same few are still there, and they're still doing what they can, even if it's just them now in their areas. And so their commitment level and their love and concern for you guys and for all of the body is quite evident when we interact with them. Okay, then the full leadership met right after that on Sunday, and the full leadership, again, very much a blessing to have the quality of men. First of all, it's something you should all appreciate is that there are actually men in the body. Okay, men who understand what Yahweh meant when he said, let there be man, and make man in our own image, etc. So there are men in this leadership. And that should make you feel good to know that there are men in the leadership who are strong, but are very caring, very loving, very concerned, understand their role to help bring and provide secure, safe, help you feel protected and provided for, etc. These are men. So I appreciate them very much. We had a really good meeting, and generally speaking, what you hear on the news about what's going on around the rest of the country and Canada is the same stuff I got in the reports from these guys. The challenge is this, and this is why we're doing it during prayer time and praise time. You can pray for the groups that meet in, and not in a house, but in buildings. Some of the places where they meet are no longer available because of this whole lockdown thing that we've had over the last few months. And so we do have a few groups that are not able to meet because they're not able to secure some place to meet. All right, so just kind of keep that in prayer. On the one hand, we have that. On the other hand, we have a brand new building that Ohio now has, and they've been enjoying. And so, we do have that success and that praise there. But there are other groups that used to meet in different locations that they were leasing or renting that are no longer available to them. A lot of it because of the lockdown situation, okay? Either because they don't want groups of more than 10 or whatever meeting in their space, or maybe I don't know what the situation is. Well, maybe their spaces are no longer even available. They're thinking of selling their buildings. I don't know what's going on. But for whatever reason, they're not available. And so let's pray that Abba will open up a door and guide these leaders to find the space that they need to have so that they can meet with their congregations. Okay? So that was very, very good. We're also excited, and we'll say this more during the announcements, but you can put this in the prayer. For the first time, we're going to be providing smicha ordination certificates to the leadership of the various congregations. They will be limited. Think of it like a license, and then you have a license that gets endorsements. So like if you have a driver's license, you may need a special endorsement to drive a bigger truck or to carry certain types of materials when you drive, et cetera. These are endorsements to a license. So we're going to first give them administrative ordinations that they are recognized as leaders who have the ability to run or lead and administer a congregation. And we're going to be doing a class this coming weekend on Sunday where I'll be certifying them in doing weddings, mikvahs, and funerals, life events. And so that'll give us an ability to serve the body in all of those major life event areas wherever these congregations do meet. So it'll give us multiple locations in other countries as well where this can be done, okay? And then we will have eventually on our website, which I think is very exciting, a way to look up and see who the ministry people are that are MTOI certified and what they're certified to do. We'll have future certifications for counseling, future certifications for teaching, or endorsements to their ordination, etc. Okay, we'll have different things that we'll add to it. And you'll get to see, the person that's leading a group that you may be considering becoming a part of, what they're certified to do. Okay? But also recognize that because they're within a structure, just because they may not be certified to do something at the point that you look for them, they will be under other leadership that is certified to do whatever it is that you need. We do have people qualified to do all of the different things. Okay? And so we're excited that we're going to get organized in that way and more official, in that way. All right. Also, I think that this is something you should know because I think it's going to be a blessing to all of you. Easy for me to say. We will be providing ID cards to the leadership that they could use when they go to, say, visit someone in a hospital. Or if we're dealing with a pandemic and they were pulled over and saying, why are you driving around? Say, well, here's my ID. I'm going to visit a member of our congregation. This is a necessary service, okay? And that was one of the things that people needed in order to drive around. Remember that at the beginning of all this? Okay? So we'll be providing ID cards for that, okay? They will not have RFID chips in them. They will not have anything to do with the mark of the beast. They will not have anything to do with end times. They're just going to be an ID card that allows you to show that you are what you are, that you are in the ministry, and that you should be given the courtesies that are extended in that municipality or that state to a ministry person, okay? And I think that will help a lot, okay, in terms of our functioning and our serving of the body. Okay, David, George, you guys ready now?
Started.
Okay, go ahead.
So from online, you have an anonymous mom praying for Laura Powell's family. And I don't know if everybody was aware of the fact that she'd passed away. April Hokut prayers for her daughter's father as he is back in the hospital with pneumonia and sepsis after 3 strokes. And she also expresses an unspoken Lady Di, prayers for my son-in-law who passed out and is in the hospital. Looks like Melissa Garcia, on behalf of her sister, she asked for prayer for her family's health and a new job opportunity. Martha Bishop expresses praise that her eye surgery was very successful. Shirley Akaplu, prayer for comfort and strength, and she's recovering from recovery of grieving friends and a friend in the ICU. Brides of the Harvest prayer request. Cousin Donna will be going to have a lump in her armpit tested on Thursday, and they're just asking for God's will to be done and comfort for the family. And Helmerson, please pray for a friend who was attacked by a dog tonight. Stephanie Henderson, prayer request for strength and comfort. Gail is asking for please pray for her sister Susan, who can't sleep, horrible dreams and pain in her body. Medication is unable to help. And Alicia Goatee, prayers that her home sells quickly so she can finally move to Tennessee. And then Double D, please pray for the Roberts family needing guidance and health. From Manny Huerta, praise for an amazing MTOI leadership team and staff. Honored that Abba allows me to serve alongside them. And he has unspoken prayers, struggling with loneliness, depression, and fear. Janet Hoffman, they miss us here. Prayers, please, for upcoming surgery, total knee replacement. Nancy Hose. That looks like the extent of them at the moment.
I do that in leadership meetings too, if we get unmuted. All right. How many you got on there right now?
186.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. Praise Yah. And again, I for those of you that are new, I'm only asking because it just lets us know how effective we're being, and it's just one of those ways of kind of measuring. By the way, I think we're probably really close at this point to 24,000, so we should hopefully not too long from now be at the 25,000 subscriber mark. So if you're online, I know that Kurt and those guys like to post that in there anyway, but if you've not subscribed yet to us, it does help. I mean, that's a way that you can help the ministry without costing you anything but the few seconds it takes to click on subscribe, because it gets us, do we hear high-pitched? There's something high-pitched. Okay. But if you hit the subscribe button, it does, there it is again. It does help us because the more subscribers and the more people that are watching and the minutes viewed and all that other stuff, it helps our metrics, which means that we'll pop up on people's sidebars on YouTube. You know, when they're watching something similar to something maybe we provide, then they'll get a suggested video. It'll be ours, and then there'll be a chance for us to, you know, bless people with whatever it is that we do, okay? And I think that when we get to 25,000, the numbers might start to really accelerate. And certainly I think by the time we get to 50. Only because that's what I've seen. There's certain like critical numbers that sort of just kind of explode things up. And I've seen our numbers actually going up. Our subscriber numbers have been going up from 400 a month to more like closer to 800 a month now. So I'm very excited about, you know, what we may be doing in terms of being effective in serving our Father. Okay, appreciate that. So if you're online, please go ahead and subscribe. It wouldn't hurt to hit the like button either, if you like what you're, you know, participating in. So that's great too. All right. I don't think that there are any other prayers that I missed. I think that we got that all covered. Let's go ahead and get somebody to open us in prayer and also pray for the praises and the prayer requests. Okay, George, you want to do that? Can you take the mic or the headset from David and do that?
Abba, Father, we thank you for bringing us together tonight and to come together to hear your word, to hear wisdom, to be with each other, all singularly focused with eyes on you. We ask that you hear these prayers, all the spoken and unspoken, and you know the hearts of those who ask, and that you bless everyone here And you hear them all in the name of your Son, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. All right, so just a reminder what we're going to do now. So we're going to go ahead and read the Torah portion. And then after we read the Torah portion, we'll have some announcements, and then we'll go into a midrash or discussion of what we read. Okay, this week's Torah portion is Beha'alotcha, Beha'alotcha. Easy for me to say. It's hard to read transliteration. If it was in Hebrew, I would have had that the first time. I need to write it more in Hebrew for myself. Okay, which means when you light or kindle, okay, it's Numbers chapter 8, verse 1 through 12:16, okay? Through 12:16, which is actually the end of the chapter. So we're going to read chapters 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I've got 10 readings here, so if we can get some readers lined up. I think I've got 6 chairs, so we'll fill them up a little over one time here. Would you like to go first, sir? Okay, we'll have Rabbi Tom lead us off going first. So when I call up each reader, I will call you up by name, and then I will recite a standard blessing, a traditional blessing over each one of you, and let you know what verses you are going to read. Okay? All right. Going to have you move up into reading position. That's probably, Rick, is he good right there? That's good? All right. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi Tom, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Rabbi Tom's going to begin in chapter 8 and read us verses 1 through 14. 1 through 14.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aharon and say to him, When you ascend to trim the lamps, let the 7 lamps give light in front of the lampstand. And Aharon did so. He set up the lamps to face toward the front of the lampstand, as Yahweh commanded Moshe. And this is the work of the lampstand, beaten work of gold, from its base to its blossoms. It is beaten work. According to the pattern which Yahweh had shown Moshe, so he made the lampstand. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Take the Levites from among the children of Israel, and you shall cleanse them. And do this to them to cleanse them. Sprinkle water of sin offering on them, and they shall shave all their body, and shall wash their garments, and cleanse themselves, and shall take a young bull with its grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, while you take another young bull as a sin offering. And you shall bring the Levites before the tent of appointment, and you shall assemble all the congregation of the children of Israel. And you shall bring the Levites before Yahweh, and the children of Israel shall lay their hands on the Levites. And Aharon shall wave the Levites before Yahweh, a wave offering from the children of Israel. So shall they be for doing the service of Yahweh. And the Levites shall lay their hands on the heads of the young bulls, and one shall be prepared as a sin offering, and the other as an ascending offering to Yahweh, to make atonement for the Levites. And you shall have the Levites stand before Aharon and his sons, and then wave them a wave offering to Yahweh. Thus you shall separate the Levites from among the children of Israel, and the Levites shall be mine.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Rabbi Tom. All right, Steve, put the mic back for him first, please. All right, then, Steve, you can come up here. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Steve, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Steve's going to take us now from verse 15 to the end of the chapter.
Okay. All right. Then after the Levites shall go in and serve the tent of appointment, when you have cleansed them and waved them as a wave offering. For they are given ones, given to me from among the children of Israel. I have taken them for myself instead of all who open the womb. The firstborn of all the children of Israel. For all the firstborn among the children of Israel are mine, both man and beast. One day that I struck all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, I set them apart unto myself, and I have taken the Levites instead of all the firstborn in the children of Israel. And I have given the Levites as a gift to Aaron and his sons from among the children of Israel to do the service of the children of Israel in the tent of appointment, and make the atonement for the children of Israel, that there be no plague among the children of Israel when the children of Israel come near the set apart place. Thus Moshe and Aaron and all the congregation of the children of Israel did to the Levites according to all that Yahweh commanded Moshe concerning the Levites, and the children of Israel did them. And the Levites cleansed themselves and washed their garments, and Aaron waved them and offered before Yahweh all Aaron made atonement for to cleanse them. After the Levites went to do their service in the tent of appointment before Aaron and his sons, as Yahweh commanded Moshe concerning the Levites, as they did to them. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, This applies to the Levites from 25 years old and above. Let him come in to active service in the service of the tent of appointment. And at the age of 50, let they retire from the active service and serve no more. But they shall attend to their brothers in the tent of appointment to guard duty, but shall do no service. Thus you shall do to the Levites according to their duty.
Amen. Amen. Okay, Shannon. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Shannon, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now to chapter 9 and read verses 1 through 12.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the first new moon of the second year after they had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, saying, Now let the children of Israel perform the Pesach as its appointed time. On the 14th day of this new moon, between the evenings, perform it at its appointed time. According to all its laws and right rulings, you perform it. And Moshe spoke to the children of Israel to perform the Pesach. So they performed the Pesach on the 14th day of the first new moon between the evenings in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that Yahweh commanded Moshe. So the children of Israel did. But there were men who were defiled for a being of a man, so they were not able to perform the Pesach on that day. So they came before Moshe and Aharon that day, and those men said to him, We are defiled for the being of a man. Why are we withheld from bringing near the offering of Yahweh at its appointed time among the children of Israel? And Moshe said to them, Wait, let me hear what Yahweh commands concerning you. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, When any male of you or your generations is unclean for a being, or is far away on a journey, he shall still perform the Pesach of Yahweh. On the 14th day of the second new moon, between the evenings, they perform it. With unleavened bread and bitter herbs they eat it. They do not leave of it until morning, and they do not break a bone of it. According to all the laws of the Pesach, they perform it.
Amen. Amen. Okay, Kip. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Kip, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from 13 to 24.
No, 13 through where?
I'm sorry, chapter 13 to the end of the chapter.
Okay. But the man who is clean and is not on a journey and has failed to perform the Pesach, that same being shall be cut off from among his people because he did not bring the offering of Yahweh at its appointed time. That man bears his sin. And when a stranger sojourns among you, then he shall perform the Pesach of Yahweh. He shall do so according to the law of the Pesach and according to its right ruling. You have one law, both for the stranger and the native of the land. And on the day that the dwelling place was raised up, the cloud covered the dwelling place, the tent of the witness. From evening until morning it was above the dwelling place like the appearance of fire. Thus it was continually. The cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. And whenever the cloud was taken up from above the tent, after that the children of Israel would depart. And in the place where the cloud dwelt, there the children of Israel would camp. At the mouth of Yahweh, the children of Israel departed, and at the command of Yahweh they camped. They remained camped as long as the cloud dwelt above the dwelling place. Even when the cloud lingered many days above the dwelling place, the children of Israel guarded the charge of Yahweh and did not depart. And so it was, when the cloud was above the dwelling place a few days, according to the mouth of Yahweh they camped, and according to the mouth of Yahweh they would depart. And so it was, when the cloud dwelt only from evening until morning. When the cloud was taken up in the morning, they departed. Then they departed. Whether by day or by night, whenever the cloud was taken up, they departed. Whether 2 days, or a new moon, or a year that the cloud lingered above the dwelling place to dwell upon it, the children of Israel camped and did not depart. But when it was taken up, they departed. At the mouth of Yahweh they camped, and at the mouth of Yahweh they departed. They guarded the charge of Yahweh at the mouth of Yahweh by the hand of Moshe.
Amen. And thank you for patiently seeing the correction. We are going to have the same numbers in chapter 10, and that's where I got my 12 through 24. Anyway, but we're going to start off chapter 10 with Sarah Beth. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Sarah Beth, who's come up to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us into chapter 10 and read verses 1 through 12.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Make 2 silver trumpets for yourself. Make them of beaten work, and you shall use them for calling the congregation and for breaking camp. And when they blow both of them, all the congregation shall meet before you at the door of the tent of meeting. And if they blow one, then the leaders of the heads of the thousands of Israel shall gather to you. And when you blow a shout, the camps that lie on the east side shall depart. And when you blow a shout the second time, then the camps that lie on the south side shall depart. They blow a shout for them to depart. And when the assembly is to be assembled, you blow, but do not shout. And the sons of Aharon, the priests, blow with the trumpets. And it shall be to you for a law forever throughout your generations. And when you go into battle in your land against the enemy that distresses you, then you shall shout with the trumpets. And you shall be remembered before Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall be saved from your enemies. And in the day of your gladness, in your appointed times, and at the beginning of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings, over your peace offerings, and they shall be remembrance for you before your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. And it came to be, in the 20th day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year, that the cloud was taken up from above the dwelling place of a witness. And the children of Israel departed, setting out from the wilderness of Sinai, and the cloud dwelt on it in the wilderness of Paran.
Amen. Amen. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rebbetzin, Julie, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from verse 13 to verse 24. See, I can't even get this right. I had 2 shots at it, chapter 10 and chapter 9, and still messed it up. Okay, from 13 to 24.
Okay, where's Shira when you need her to read these names? All right. Thus they departed the first time according to the mouth of Yahweh by the hand of Moshe. And the banner of the camp of the children of Yehuda departed first according to their divisions. And over their army was Nahshon, son of Amminadab. And over the army of the tribe of the children of Issachar was Nathaniel, son of Tzuar. And over the army of the tribe of the children of Zebulun was Eliab, son of Helon. And the dwelling place was taken down. And the sons of Gershon and the sons of Merari departed, bearing the dwelling place. And the banner of the camp of Reuben departed according to their divisions. And over their army was Elitzur, son of Shedeur. And over the army of the tribe of the children of Shimon was Shelumiel, son of Tzurishaddai. And over the army of the tribe of the children of Gad was Eliasaph, the son of Deuel. And the Kehatites departed, bearing the set-apart objects, while the dwelling place was set up before they came. And the banner of the camp of the children of Ephraim departed according to their divisions. And over their army was Elishama, son of Ammihud. And over the army of the tribe of the children of Manasseh was Gamliel, son of Pedatsur. And over the army of the tribe of the children of Benjamin was Abidan, son of Gedoni. Then the banner of the camp of the children of Dan. Oh, I was on a roll. I was having fun.
Yeah, you're on a roll, and George is probably thinking, keep going. There's a few more names there. Thank you, Rebbetzin. Awesome. We're going to let George finish this out, though. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless George, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, chapter 10, 25 to the end of the chapter.
Then the banner of the camp of the children of Dan, which formed the rear guard of all the camps, departed according to their divisions. And over their army was Ahiezer, son of Ammishaddai. And over the army of the tribe of the children of Asher was Pagiel, son of Okran. And over the army of the tribe of the children of Naphtali was Ahira, the son of Enan. Such was the order of setting out of the children of Israel according to their divisions when they departed. And Moshe said to Hoab, son of Reuel, the Midianite, Moshe's father-in-law, we are setting out for the place which Yahweh said, I give it to you. Come with us, and we shall do good to you, for Yahweh has spoken good concerning Israel. And he replied to him, I am not going, but I am going to my own land and to my relatives. Then he said, please do not leave us, because you know how we are to camp in the wilderness, and you shall be our eyes. And it shall be, when you go with us, then it shall be that whatever good Yahweh does to us, the same we shall do to you. So they set out from the mountain of Yahweh on a journey of 3 days. And the ark of the covenant of Yahweh went before them for the 3 days' journey to seek out a resting place for them. And the cloud of Yahweh was above them by day when they came out from the camp. And it came to be, whenever the ark set out, that Moshe said, rise up, O Yahweh, and let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee before you. And when it rested, he said, return, O Yahweh, to the countless thousands of Israel.
Amen. Amen. Okay, Rebbetzin, Joanne. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rebbetzin and Joanne, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now to chapter 11 and read verses 1 through 15.
And it came to be, when the people were as complainers, it was evil in the ears of Yahweh. And Yahweh heard it. And his displeasure burned, and the fire of Yahweh burned among them and consumed those in the outskirts of the camp. And the people cried out to Moshe, and Moshe prayed to Yahweh, and the fire died down. Then he called the name of the place Tabereth, because the fire of Yahweh had burned among them, and the mixed multitude who were in their midst lusted greatly. So the children of Israel also wept again and said, "Who is giving us meat to eat? We remember the fish which we ate without cost in Mitzrayim, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our being is dried up. There is naught to look at but this manna." Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its appearance like the appearance of bdellium. The people went about and gathered it, ground it on millstones, or beat it in the mortar, and cooked it in a pot, and made cakes of it. And was the taste of cakes baked with oil. And when the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna fell on it. And Moshe heard the people weeping throughout their clans, each man at the door of his tent. And the displeasure of Yahweh burned exceedingly, and in the eyes of Moshe it was evil. So Moshe said to Yahweh, "Why have you done evil to your servant? And why have you found favor in your eyes to put the burden of all these people on me? Was it I who conceived all those people? Was it I who brought them forth, that you should say to me, 'Carry them in your bosom,' as the foster father carries a nursing child to the land which you swore to their fathers? Where am I to get meat to give all these people? For they weep before me, saying, 'Give us meat to eat.' I am unable to bear all these people alone, because the burden is too heavy for me. And if you are doing this to me, kill me. Please kill me if I have found favor in your eyes, and let me not see my evil."
Amen. Amen. I might have given that one too strong an amen. I'll talk about that later. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Marty, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, take us from verse 16 to the end of the chapter.
Then Yahweh said to Moshe, "Gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people and officers over them, and bring them to the tent of appointment, and let them stand there with you. And I shall come down and speak with you there, and shall take of the Spirit that is on you, and put it on them. And they shall bear the burden of the people with you, so that you do not bear it yourself alone. And say to the people, 'Set yourselves apart for tomorrow, and you shall eat meat, because you have wept in the hearing of Yahweh, saying, Who is giving us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Mitzrayim. And Yahweh shall give you meat, and you shall eat. You are going to eat not 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days, but for a new moon of days, until it comes out of your nostrils, and becomes an abomination to you, because you have rejected Yahweh, who is among you, and have wept before him, saying, why did we come up out of Mizraim? And Moshe said, the people in whose midst I am are 600,000 men on foot, and you have said, I give them meat to eat for a new moon of days. Could flocks and herds be slain for them to be sufficient for them? Or could all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to be sufficient for them? And Yahweh said to Moshe, is the arm of Yahweh too short? Now see whether my word meets you or not. And Moshe went out and spoke to the people the words of Yahweh, and he gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people and placed them around the tent. How far? Okay. And Yahweh came down in the cloud and spoke to him and took of the Spirit that was upon him and placed the same upon the 70 elders. And it came to be when the Spirit rested upon them that they prophesied, but did not continue. However, 2 men had remained in the camp. The name of one was Eldad, and the name of the other Medad, and the Spirit rested upon them. Now they were among those listed, but did not go out to the tent, and they prophesied in the camp. And a young man ran and informed Moshe and said, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. And Yehoshua, son of Nun, Moshe's assistant from his youth, answered and said, Moshe, my master, forbid them. Then Moshe said to him, are you jealous for my sake? Oh, that all the people of Yahweh were prophets, that Yahweh would put his Spirit upon them. And Moshe returned to the camp, both he and the elders of Israel. And a wind went forth from Yahweh, and it brought quail from the sea and let them fall beside the camp, about a day's journey on this side and about a day's journey on the other side, all around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the surface of the ground. And the people were up all that day and all that night and all the next day and gathered the quail. He who has least gathered 10 omers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. The meat was still between their teeth before it was chewed, and the wrath of Yahweh burned against the people. And Yahweh struck the people with an exceeding great plague. Then he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaawah, because there they buried the people who had lusted. From Kibroth Hattaawah, the people set out for Hatzoroth, and they were at Hatzoroth.
Amen, amen. I need one more reader. Okay, did somebody else that did not read yet want to read? Kathy, come on up. And you're going to read all of chapter 12 at 16 verses. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Kathy, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, chapter 12, read the whole chapter.
Now Miriam and Aharon spoke against Moshe because of the Cushite woman whom he had taken, for he had taken a Cushite woman. And they said, has Yahweh spoken only, through Moshe? Has he not also spoken through us? And Yahweh heard it. And the man Moshe was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. And suddenly Yahweh said to Moshe and Aharon and Miriam, you 3 come out to the tent of appointment. So the 3 came out. And Yahweh came down in the column of the cloud and stood in the door of the tent and called Aharon and Miriam. And they both went forward. And he said, hear now my words. If your prophet is of Yahweh, I make myself known to him in a vision. and I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moshe. He is trustworthy in all my house. I speak with him mouth to mouth, and plainly, not in riddles. And he sees the form of Yahweh. So why were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moshe? And the displeasure of Yahweh burned against them, and he left. And the cloud turned away from above the tent, and look, Miriam was leprous, as white as snow. And Aharon turned toward Miriam, and look, a leper. And Aharon said to Moshe, "O my master, please do not hold against us the sin in which we have done foolishly, and in which we have sinned. Please do not let her be as one dead when coming out of its mother's womb, with our flesh half consumed." And Moshe cried out to Yahweh, saying, "O El, please heal her, please." And Yahweh said to Moshe, "If her father had but spit in her face, would she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out of the camp 7 days, and after that let her be readmitted." And Miriam was shut out of the camp 7 days, and the people did not set out until Miriam was readmitted. And afterward the people departed from Hatzerot, and they camped in the wilderness of Paran.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you all you readers. Appreciate it very much. Okay. The traditional blessing after the readings. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Amen. All right. Okay, again, great job, all of you on the readings. Appreciate it very much. We've got a lot to talk about here, but we're going to start with some announcements. Give you a chance to start typing in some of the comments on the live stream. Although I would like you to pay attention to the announcements while you're doing that. So if you're able to do two things at the same time, type in and listen, then do that. Otherwise, just listen, please. I want to make sure you get the announcements covered. Okay, so first of all, I want to welcome any guests we have in the room. Not here as much as we expected. We'll have them in the virtual listing there. How many people we got on there now? Our computers? All right, 247 computers. Okay, so that's fantastic. You're all welcome. Hopefully you're having a good evening, if it's evening where you are or whatever time it is where you are. Okay, we do this, for those of you that are new, we do this every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So you're welcome to come back and study with us as we do this every week, as we go through the Torah portions. That would be the breakdown of the Genesis through Deuteronomy into weekly portions. All right. Also, we have a program for the children. It's called Parsha Pearls. It's a free program. It has its own website, ymtoi.org. And on that site, you can download a PDF with that week's Torah portion. We do publish it on the Sunday before. So this past Sunday, it was for this week, okay? And so you could always get the Torah portion there. It has a robust amount of material for the children. It has a discussion of the Torah portion. There's actually what we also call a little gem story, where there's a little story that kind of connects with the Torah portion. As it would happen to be this week in the Torah portion, there's a mention of things like the Levites being there with Aaron and other things that the Levites would do, and a discussion as to what that would look like today. And of course, one of the things that was mentioned is that it might look like a rabbi, sharing and teaching. And so they decided to have our artist draw a that guy looks kind of familiar. But this picture is actually I'll put it over here, in the Parsha Pearl. I don't know if I have that color shirt, though. I think I do. I have that shirt? Okay, so that came from one of my pictures there, but anyway. A very good-looking guy, I can tell that right now. Handsome young man. with his black and silver hair. Although, thank you for drawing a little bit more black than silver than it really is. I appreciate that. Okay, so the Parsha Pearls program also has a lot of fun for the children. It's got coloring pages, and it has a craft, and it has a notebook page, and a snack, and all these things are connected to the Torah portion. There's word searches and crossword puzzles, and there's a couple of words. I think we have 4 words that are cut out. You can cut them out as Hebrew flashcards. Okay, so you have the Hebrew words. These are words that you find in the Torah portion. And so it's a very fantastic program. I can't say enough about it. Great program. Headed up by my wife, Rebbetzin Julie, who with her team puts together. It's a great program. Okay, so that's at ymtoi.org. Also, our own Shira Wendling has done us a fabulous job of reading the scriptures in the Torah portions. Okay, great job. Okay. So if you go to MTOI.org and you go under media, you'll see audio scripture readings, and they're broken up by Torah portion. You can hear Shira read the scriptures. Okay, for those of you that like to listen to the word. We've got 3 books in there. We've got Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. We're adding the other 2 as soon as she finishes. And so we'll have all of that in there. Okay, so that's, now for those of you that are also new, we do this every Shabbat. We do broadcast just like we're doing now. We broadcast our services. So our Shabbat services are broadcast on YouTube here, just like you're watching right now. And you'll find that those things are usually already posted with a little bit of a countdown, so you'll have it already linked there. Of course, if you subscribe to us on YouTube, you'll get notifications whenever we post anything. In the meantime, you have over, 15 or 1,800 videos you can catch up on at your leisure. Okay? Let's see. Then on June 14th, we have a leadership training class. You don't have to really put that up there with anything slides there. So if any of the leaders are paying attention, we do have leadership training. We're going to be doing that mikvah and wedding and funeral class on the 14th, this coming Sunday at noon. And then on June the 23rd, I can go to the next, there it is. Okay, Torah study. On that Tuesday night, we're going to do a Rosh Chodesh service, a new moon service, and then the Torah study. So that's June 23rd. We'll get together at 6 o'clock for eating, and then 8 o'clock for the Torah service, and the Rosh Chodesh service and the Torah study. Okay? Because that will already be the first of the 4th month, and so we'll be catching the tail end of it right before sundown. So we'll get that in there, because sundown won't be till at least around 9 o'clock or so. So we'll have plenty of time to squeeze that in between 8 and 9. The Torah service, the Rosh Chodesh service only takes a few minutes. Okay, so we'll broadcast that and go right straight into the Torah study. Okay, we'll be having a meal here for those of you here, and you'll give me more details about that. Okay, she's working on it. We'll have by Saturday. We'll have the announcements for everybody what we're going to be doing for that date. Okay, we'll announce that on Shabbat. All right, so that'll be on June the 23rd, and then on July 12th we have our picnic and mikvah. Yeah. Okay. Which will likely be at Chester Frost Park in Hickson. And so, get excited about that. We think that should work out very nicely. And so far, every year when we've scheduled it, the weather has behaved well enough where even when we've had terrible storms, they waited till like 5, 6 o'clock to come. And so we're able to get everything in. So it's worked out beautifully. Okay. So if you're planning to come, though, for that weekend, please let us know that you're coming so we can coordinate with you a little bit, give you some information on what's going on to make sure that we're prepared for any influx of people that might be coming in. You're all welcome. Just we'd love to know you're coming. It just makes it a little easier on our planning on this side. Okay? And I think that should cover it for that. By the way, for those of you that will be visiting, if you do come to visit, as of right now, every week we do have a meal, a fellowship meal. We call it an oneg. Oneg in Hebrew means delight. Okay, we have that every week after services. And the way we've been doing it of late is that people are bringing, instead of potluck and turning it into a buffet, you've been bringing food just for your family and maybe a little extra for some other people. And some of you bring you guys bring a good spread. If you guys ever go out and have a picnic, invite me, because I've seen some really good, you guys know how to throw a picnic. All right, but so if you're planning to come and you're able to bring food, that's great. If you're visiting, if you're not able to bring anything, let us know, and we'll make sure that we can find a way to provide for you and help you out, knowing that you've traveled and et cetera. So we'll work that all out. Okay, I think that's going to cover it for the announcements. All right, let's go ahead and get into the discussion. Now, let me give some ground rules for if you're online. Okay, again, wait and type things in and allow George and David to take the time to mark those things down so we can have them in the discussion. Here's what we're looking for. Two things. One, we're looking to try to go through this with the idea of looking for what in the Torah portion can I glean and apply in my life today. We're not just looking to answer every Bible question you've ever had, although we could try to do a little of that too. But we're more interested in, was there anything mentioned in this, this section, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters that we read that applies to you today, that you can take in, maybe not directly, but maybe there are things that you can say, there are lessons learned that you can learn from. We'd also like to take it to whatever degree we can chronologically, which means I'd like to deal with chapter 8 before we go to chapter 9, etc., so we get the flow of the things. So sometimes you look at chapter 11 or 12 and you realize, well, maybe whatever was there was actually addressed earlier in chapter 8 or 9, and we needed to kind of get that in the flow. Okay? So that's our ground rules. Who would like to start us off here? Steve, there's a surprise. Good. So it's always good to have that one person you can count on to start us off.
Something caught my eye in the beginning here, of course. It says, when you ascend to trim the lamps. And I thought, what did trim the lamps? So I looked at it. It says, in this care involved trimming the wick of the which drew the oil from the storage reservoir so that the flame would burn clean and bright. A poorly trimmed wick creates a flame which is dim and smoky. So to me, the lamp would be my heart, which my feet follow. So if I fail to trim my heart correctly, my walk is going to be dim and smoky.
Okay.
And then I got another for 8-7, bro.
All right. Well, you go ahead and give me 8-7 while you're standing there.
All right. 8-7 is, it says, to do it was part of the scriptures, and do this. So in order for us to be clean and righteous, we need to do something in addition to our faith.
Okay, so there's some things to do in addition. Okay, appreciate that. All right, so I like the thing that you brought out about the idea of what is necessary to trim the lamp. And again, there's always going to be that part of the instructions that we participate in. And so here we're using the light as a metaphor, and they are required to deal with the lights in the temple, especially making sure that the ner tamid, the flame that's supposed to be kept burning. Okay, this was one of their jobs. And of course, to have it burn correctly, they would have to go and attend to the wicks and make sure that that all that things were being done beautifully there. Thank you for bringing that out. Okay, anybody else who wants to go next? Chapter 8, going once, going twice. Do you guys have anything online for chapter 8? Okay, go for it, because I've got a lot of them. I have a lot for all of the chapters today, so. All right, turn your mic on and.
So we've got, this one looks like it's written in crayon. Question in regards to 826, to guard the duty, could this be an idiom for accountability?
Sure. To some degree, that's probably what it's talking about there. But we'll get to 826 in a minute, because 826 is an important piece of this. Okay? Do you have anything else in chapter 8 before I go?
Down at the bottom. Right there. This one. Yeah. And then Libby asked in Numbers 8:2, what does trimming the lamp symbolize? What would that be like for us today, since the virgins in Matthew 5 or 25:7 also trimmed their lamps?
Okay, I think that you got the answer from the way Steve explained it. I mean, you need to recognize that if you do not attend to the wick properly, and that's, think of it this way, it's the cord that's in the oil that's going to burn, and if it's not attended to and handled correctly, you will get a light that is not like as bright as you might have wanted. It might be smoky. It could have other issues. So you have to have the right handling of that part of it, okay? And I like that Steve, kind of connected it to the walk. In other words, the light was, the oil was there, the flame was there, but if you don't attend and pay attention to it, it's not going to function correctly, okay? So a good point there. Do you have another one?
Numbers 9:10.
Oh, it's too far. We're still in 8.
What?
We're still in 8.
Still in 8. I don't have any more 8.
Okay, 8. Okay, here we go. Off to the races. Let's see. All right, so first of all, let's just remember in the beginning of here that the lampstand I thought was interesting, and other parts of the things that are built for the tabernacle he emphasizes, are of beaten work. And guess what we are? The works of his hands. And so don't get upset when you're becoming a beaten work. Okay? Because he sometimes, look, when you are taking something like clay even, to start off with, you have to pound that clay quite a bit to get it to the malleability that you need before you mold it into something. And if it's metal, you literally are beating it with a hammer. You're beating it to get it into the shape that you want, the thinness or the thickness that you want, etc. And so, and of course, fire is applied as well, and we talk about that in the teaching on baptism of fire. Okay, so you understand how that works. And so it's not, for some of you that are new and haven't heard what I've taught on that, baptism of fire is not what the charismatics and Pentecostals are teaching. It has to do with the testing of your mettle, so to speak. It's the trials that Yah allows to happen in your lives to see how far you've come on the journey. Okay, so I like that in verse 2, in verse 4 and other places it says, in this work of the lampstand, beaten work of gold from its base to its blossoms, it is beaten work. And the lampstand also represents what? Israel. Because it talks about the lampstand as being one of those symbols that's a symbol for him and for his people. And so to see that would be a beaten work, that would be very, very cool to kind of understand. Okay, another point here in chapter 8. In verses 11 and 13, it mentions that the Levites were waved before Yahweh. I picture that Aaron and his sons were pretty strong to pick them up and wave them. No, I'm kidding, okay? So what does it mean to wave them? Think of this, and I've said this in other Torah portions, present before Yahweh, okay? To present them in an official way before Yahweh. And that's what they called a wave offering. They weren't picking the Levites up. Did you want to say something? Okay, so Rebbe's and Julie says as kind of a humorous note in this week's Torah portion, one of the pictures in the coloring pages, the notebook page, is the priests holding the Levites in a basket and waving them before Yahweh. Oh, those guys were strong. Listen, to do all those sacrifices and everything else, they're strong guys. Okay, in verses 16 through 18, we see, again, we talked about this a little bit last week with Pidyon Haben, the replacement of the firstborn with the Levites. So here you see it stated very clearly and officially. In verse 18, it's very clear, and I have taken the Levites instead of all the firstborn of the children of Israel. So verses 16, 17, 18, he explains that with some clarity there. And then back now to verse 26, which is something that someone had asked online. Let me kind of get into that a little bit. 24 through 26, it says, this applies to Levites from 25 and above. Let them come into active service of the tent of meeting. And age 50, they are to retire from active service and serve no more. But they shall attend with their brothers in the tent of meeting to guard the duty, but shall do no service. Okay, so what we can glean out of this, first of all, what happened to age 30? All of a sudden, we dropped it down to 25. We've been talking about 30 up to this point. So the best that we can glean in putting the puzzle together, because you also see the 50-year-olds are retired from the active service, but yet they are still serving. So the best that we can say is those who had done from 30 to 50 for 20 years of this, that they are now training the 25-year-olds for being ready to do it at 30. Okay? Because if you take the holistic context, the full context of what we've read in the instructions regarding Levites, clearly they're starting at 30. There seems to be no issue there. But there's a training period apparently from 25 to 30. It doesn't say that specifically. But I think we can glean that. And of course we see that at 50 they retire from that level of performance. But they're still going to be working. They're still going to be there attending with their brothers. But they are to do no service. In other words, they're not going to actually deal with the physical works of the sacrifices, etc. Okay, attending in that way. But they're still going to answer people's questions. Remember when somebody came with something on their skin or on their clothing, had to go see a priest, they could deal with those things. But I think a lot of it had to do with training the 25-year-olds. And they gave them 5 years of training so they were ready. Because this thing was a very serious thing to work in the temple. And if you messed up, you could be dead. And so you can only imagine that they had very intensive, thorough training, which is never really mentioned specifically. So I think it's a very likely and very reasonable, guess on our part to say that that's what was going on here. So I think that was really good. Of course, when it says retired at 50, I realize now that I'm almost 7 years overdue and I'm going to take off. No. Okay. Rabbi Tom's already said I can't do that. So, and I have to respect my elders, and certainly he's older than I am, so I would respect that. All right. I think we can go to chapter 9 now. Okay, anybody here for chapter 9? Okay, David, chapter 9.
So, verse 9, 10, could Rabbi please expound upon the instruction to perform the Pesach regardless of being in a Tehor state?
Okay, so the whole point here is that they were going to be given an opportunity to have the second Passover. Since they were forbidden from doing the Passover in the state, and by the way, Tahor, you're always able to do the Passover. It's Tameh is the problem. So the person confused the two terms. You're always able to do the Passover in a Tahor state. If something makes you Tameh, you're not going to be able to do it. And so that's now where we get the instruction for the second Passover in verse 14. Okay? So you see, and when the sojourner stranger among you, and he shall perform the Passover, he shall do all according to the law. But you have this instruction now on the verse 11. On the 14th day of the second month, between the evenings, you can perform it. So this verses 9 through 14 is dealing with those who can't, for whatever reason, do the first Passover, a provision for a second one. Okay, hopefully that answers that question. But just get your Hebrew words clear. Tahor is clean, Tameh is unclean. And so if you're Tahor, you could have done the first one. Now this is important because in John, okay, we see this going on in John. I mean, so there's an endorsement of John 19, I believe. If I get it right. No, 18:28. When they led Yeshua from Caiaphas to the palace, and it was early, and they themselves did not go in, lest they should become defiled or tameh, but that they might eat the Passover. So they were concerned with this status of tahor and tameh, and they're being able to eat the Passover. They didn't want to wait till the second month. Okay? So we see this talked about. Now, of course, if you're a New Testament Christian, you would read John 18:28 and have no idea what they were talking about. As actually with most of the Gospels. You would not, unless you understand the Tanakh, you really don't know what they're talking about. Okay. I'm not saying that to be condescending. I'm not saying that to be, looking down my nose, whatever the idiomatic phrase is at anybody. You just can't know what is actually happening in the Brit Hadashah without understanding the Tanakh. I mean, you can understand it. You'll get most of it wrong. Okay, you understand it with whatever understanding you have, but you won't understand. You won't understand the woman caught in adultery. You won't understand any of the things going on like this here with in John 18. There's just unlimited amount of things you will not understand correctly unless you understand the Tanakh. Okay? Anyway, next question from chapter 9.
So Deidre asks, when the second Pesach is observed, does the participant also eat unleavened bread for 8 days or only for that one night and day?
There does not seem to be any requirement to do the unleavened bread part except just for the Passover meal. Okay? So I don't have instruction here where they then have to keep the whole week that way. Okay? Because remember, the only thing that was not allowed for you if you were Tameh was to perform the Passover, which then would have a meal afterwards, because after all, you perform the Passover means you've killed the animal. You brought it to the temple and they slaughtered the animal. You have the Passover offering there, and then you bring that home, cook it, and eat it. And that needed to be done with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Okay? But there doesn't seem to be any verse referencing the eating unleavened bread for the week.
So Oliver and Janet Hoffman, Rabbi, in chapter 11, 33 and 34, what Or was the lust a problem because they put it before Yahweh and they complained and grumbled rather than being grateful for the manna? Is this related to Commandment 10?
Okay. Because you're not Manny, I'll let you jump to chapter 11 when we're in chapter 9. Okay, but, because that's like the last question I have on my list of things here to do almost in chapter 11. Okay, so let's wait till we get there. It'll be easier because there's so many things that we want to cover that will kind of fit into that. Okay? There's other things in chapter 11 we have to cover first to explain the end of the chapter there. Okay, we'll get there. We're still dealing with chapter 9.
Right. Ms. Ramona, there's another 9. 9:14, where it says you have one law for both the stranger and those in the land. Can you expound on that to clarify, was that those who had made themselves a part of Israel?
Yes, we're talking about, if you go and listen to Passover Q&A part 1, okay, then we get into this. In Exodus chapter 12, there's a mention of the word stranger a couple of times, but it's not always the same Hebrew word. Here we're talking what's called the ger. Okay, and a ger is in our terms, a proselyte, somebody that's looking to be a part of and is actively pursuing becoming a covenanted part of Israel, and that for them the same laws apply whether they are already covenanted or not. And actually what they're saying here, if you go back to Exodus 12, is that in order to perform the Passover, they have to actually make the commitment, get circumcised, and become a citizen. Okay? And so when he says he shall do so according to the law of the Passover, according to its right ruling, you have one law both for the stranger and the native of the land. That also takes them back to Exodus 12:48, where that's explained in much more detail, if I have that verse right. Okay? Which if you're in the old scriptures, it'll be in the left-hand column, almost at the bottom of the page, on the left page. Okay, just so you know. I'm just saying that for Sarah Beth because she's got a 98. Of course, she's too busy texting her fiance, so she's not really listening. So she's not listening very well, and which we can forgive because she's engaged. So what else would she be doing? Turning red is what she's doing. Okay. Next. Okay. Do you have anything else in chapter 9?
Nothing else in 9.
Listen, if you're going to be kind of my daughter, then you're going to be subject to all of these kind of abuses. Okay. That's it for chapter 9. Okay, I have one more for chapter 9, then we'll go to 10. Okay, a really big part of the chapter, it's almost like 10 verses, 8 or 9 verses, is from 15 to 23. This is an important thing. When the cloud moved, the people moved. Okay? They didn't argue, although we do find some complaining happening later in chapter 11, but that is when Yahweh moves, you move. But when he doesn't move, you stay. Okay? Of course, a lot of us move even though Yahweh didn't move. And we run all over the place even if Yahweh hadn't moved. Or we hang out in places where Yahweh isn't even there. Okay? So this is something just for you to think about in your life today. Okay? But you see this, he talks about it in detail, whether it was one day or even just from evening to the morning. And you just set up the camp. He's like, break it down, we're leaving again. Or it could be a month, it could be a year. He said, but when he moved, they moved. And when he didn't move, they stayed. And so there are lots of lessons we can glean out of that. I mean, we could probably do a whole study just on all the ramifications of that. But I want you to meditate on that and think about what does that look like in your life, waiting on him, but being ready to move when he moves. Okay? So that's an important part of that. Okay, chapter 10. Anybody here? Okay, on live stream. Now you go to chapter 10. Nothing? All right, Sarah Beth has one. I have 3. Wait, I missed one on chapter 9, too. I'll get that one in a second. I missed one in chapter 9. Go ahead. Chapter 10.
It's a comment. When I first came in and heard your calendar teaching, I had been trying to figure it out on my own, and I submitted to what you had chosen. And after I submitted and laid down everything, I read this, and it was like it made everything crystal clear. It's the leadership that decides the calendar, not each of us on our own.
Amen. Amen. Because it talks about the blowing of the 2 silver trumpets to announce the new moon. okay? And the leadership would make that decision. Thank you. By the way, I know that she was texting him about this, okay? So just, I got to be nice and throw that out there. I'm sure that's what they were discussing. So in chapter 9, I missed it because my scripture page was folded over that little part of my note that I wrote on the side of my paper here. So let me cover that real quickly here. Chapter 9 and verse 8, okay? And actually, it's earlier than that when the man had an issue about the Passover. This is what leads into the whole second Passover thing. He asks Moses, and Moses says, wait, let me hear what Yahweh commands concerning this, concerning you. So this is sort of a reminder to all leadership. Now, we're not going to sit and wait for a voice to speak to you. You're going to go into the book and see what he's already said about it. But for leadership, that means don't just whip an answer out of your back pocket or something, or just make something up. But if you don't actually know because you haven't dealt with it before, remember, this is something Moses hadn't dealt with before. So this is we're talking about an issue you hadn't dealt with before. He says, make sure that you're then looking to see what Yahweh has to say about it before you make a decision. Okay, now Deuteronomy 17 says what to do when Yahweh doesn't have anything explicitly that he says about something. Then the leadership has to come up with a decision amongst themselves. But notice the first thing Moses says to the person, he says, let me go see what Yahweh has to say about it. Okay? So for today, this is not for you, it's for the leadership. Leadership, make sure that you're doing that. And if you don't know, and you're in a vertical structure, ask up the line. Go up the line and ask the next person up the line. I have a situation here I've never run into before. I don't know what to do. And then you get some information and answers. That's I think, a really important one. Now we can go to chapter 10. Did you have any over there, David? You said no. Okay, so a couple things real quickly. Chapter 10 and verse 5. The word that you see there for blow is tekiyah. And for shout, it's truah. This is where we get some of the calls you hear of the shofar during the Day of Trumpets, right? During Yom Teruah, Feast of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah. So the tekiyah sound and the truah sound, we believe, have to do with the idea of the blow and the shout. Okay? So you have that there. And you see it in other places, but in verse 5 you see them both. And then in chapter 10 and in verse 13, we talked about this last week, just another place where he says it again. Thus they departed the first time according to the command of Yahweh, but by the leadership or hand, the guidance of Moses. Okay? So this is showing the order of the structure. Yahweh commanded it, Moses implemented and guided it and led what happened. And that's to remind people that that's the structure. It's Yahweh's command, but people still have to implement it and have supervision over it. Okay, so it was by Moses' hand, but it was Yahweh's command. So then we have the right order there. Okay, did you have a hand up somewhere? You got one for Livestream? Go ahead.
Benjamin Burbank and 10, in regards to the trumpets, what is a trumpet shout, and is it also reference to the trumpet and the shout of Yeshua at his return?
Yes, okay, again, we're looking at the Hebrew the attempt to try and put it into English. The word there is tekiyah, and the other word is truah. Okay, so when you hear, bah, that's a tekiyah sound. I have one right here. Okay, so we are, by tradition, passing down through history the idea of a tekiyah sound. This is tekiyah. Okay, that's, again, remember this is being used like we would use a bugle in the military. Okay, remember it says when you hear the one trumpet blow, you know that it's calling people to assemble. You hear both, that it's calling to pack up and everybody leave. And, it tells you that certain combinations of sounds, they're not really listed here, but the Jewish community knows there was, just like with a bugle, certain sounds, means we're going to war, we're to wake up in the morning, to go to eat lunch, or nighttime reveille. There's stuff that you have to do. That you hear it, you know what it means. Okay? Now, so the shout is the da, okay? Excuse me, the blow is the tekiyah. Da, that's the blow, the tekiyah. And the shout is the truah, which we have understood it to be a series of 9 short blasts. Okay? So for those of you who've ever heard it all your life thinking, oh, just make a bunch of ba 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 ba, however many you do. Actually, it's musical. Okay, there's a pattern to it. Okay, Tekiah is 1. Okay, Shevarim is 3. Okay, and then the Truah is 9. And basically, the 1, okay, let's say that you took that 1 and broke it into 3 shorter blasts, but the same length as the 1, that's your Shevarim. You break the 1 into 9, that's why they're quicker. So that they should be around the same length. So, ba or ba 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 or ba 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 is about the same length. Okay? And then you've got the Tekiah Gedolah, the great Tekiah, the great blow, the blast, okay? That is extended to several times longer than the normal one, okay? Now, it is by tradition turned into until you pass out, but that's not what it's supposed to be. It's really supposed to be about 2 to 3 times as long, so it's clear it's a longer blast, all right? It's not supposed to be, as long as you can go. But, man is man, and, that's the way it tends to work out. Okay, here's the Truah. Okay? It's 3, 3, and so think of it like triplets. Okay? Because remember, it's going to be taking the 1, turning it into 3, turning it into 3 sets of 3. Okay? And that's kind of where more musically it would be. Okay. Oh, you want a Gadol? Yes. What, do you think I perform on demand? They're like shouting for Gadol. All right. All right, so hopefully that was a fun way of answering that question. All right, do you have any other ones, David? From chapter 10.
No.
Okay, I've got one more thing that I want to point out, which will come up at some point in the future, only because I really am hopeful that we will have, at some point in the future here, we'll be purchasing the Torah scroll. And when we purchase the Torah scroll and have a Torah service, one of the things that is said right at the beginning of the Torah service when they bring the Torah scroll out is, rise. Rise up, O Yahweh. Okay, we're talking about verse 35 and 36. Okay, and you say this in the Hebrew, and there's a way to go ahead and sing that. But it's, rise up, O Yahweh, and let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee before me. Okay, and then when they bring it back and put it away, return, O Yahweh, to the countless thousands of Israel. All right, so these are things that by tradition they would say when they bring the Torah scroll out of the ark, and then do a processional through the congregation, and then when you put it back. Okay? So if you've ever been in a Torah service and have seen that, you know what I'm talking about, but that's part of the service. So, and that's where it comes from. Look, for those of you out there that are still not comfortable with all that Jewish stuff, okay? I don't know why it makes my voice change when I do that, but get over it. Okay? Because your Messiah was born Jewish, lived Jewish, died Jewish, is coming back Jewish. Now, that doesn't mean all of Judaism. It's just that he's Jewish, which means he spoke Hebrew, and he recited liturgy as the Jews would have done, and lived a very, Jewish lifestyle, okay? Because that's what he was. And so you need to let that go. Because I've had people come and love all of that part of the story. Other people go, well, that's just all that Jewish stuff. What do you mean all that Jewish stuff? You can say that to Messiah? He did all that Jewish stuff. So did all the apostles and all the first century believers. Because they're all Jews initially. I should say all the first century believers. I mean, the initial ones, okay? Before Peter and Kepha went out there, Peter and Paul went out there and started preaching to the Gentiles. It was all Jews. But I want to do is say that when you do hear the liturgy like we do on Shabbat, my daughter does such a beautiful job with, that liturgy is basically Scripture being canted as liturgy. Okay? As a matter of fact, we read another little piece of liturgy today. I think Sarah Beth got to read it, where from Numbers 10:10 that we read every week, every month when we do the new moon service. Okay, and it talks about blowing the silver trumpets over the offerings. Okay, we read Numbers 10:10 every Rosh Chodesh service. We'll do that again on the 23rd when we get together for that. Okay, so the liturgy just comes right out of, so I don't want you to think, oh, a bunch of Jews just made up some stuff. Well, no, it comes right out of Scripture. Just like verse 35 and 36 that we just read at the end of chapter 10, which is going to be a part of when we do the Torah service. And for those of you that have been contributing to the Torah Scroll Fund, we appreciate that. And not too many of you have been doing that, but the ones that do. And it is accumulating little by little. And so we may actually be looking to purchase one at some point here in the near future. And then we'll have a real scroll, which means we'll have to have an Aron built, an Aron Kodesh, an ark for it to be put in. Okay? And so I might have you talk to Richard, Rabbi Tom, about designing that. I know you both do some woodwork and stuff, so, okay? Anyway, we'll have a team effort there. All right, chapter 11. Anybody here? Okay, David, chapter 11.
So Michael Perez,
and I know we have the one question at the end of the chapter we'll get to, but go ahead.
1133.
Okay.
That was the what are we listing after that is not beneficial to our Torah observant walk. Being satisfied and content with what Yahweh provides without complaining and grumbling.
Okay, let's, since we have two questions on that, let's get into that a little bit. Okay, so at the end of the chapter, look, I think one of the Torah portions I called whine, complain, complain. It might have been this one. I don't remember which one I called it that, but this seemed to be our Israelite heritage. When we see them, since they, when they're walking in the wilderness, they seem to do a lot of whining and a lot of complaining. And by the way, in chapter 11 and verse 1, we're told that complaining is evil. It came to be when the people were as complainers, it was evil in the ears of Yahweh. Okay, because we say that, certain things are like unto witchcraft. Well, no, this complaining is like unto evil. Very clear. So we understand what something is matched up with. Okay? And so for you out there, be careful with your whining and your complaining. In Yahweh's ears, not in my ears, not some other ministry person. Yahweh says it was evil in his ears. Why would it be evil in his ears? Because they were not appreciating all that he had done for them. All they could think about is what they were missing still and what more they wanted. I want. Okay? Without any satisfaction to that, but a lot of I want. And so then we get to them whining and complaining, so he gives them manna. Okay, manna is not a thing. It's actually, it's just a word that actually in Hebrew means manna, means what's this? Because that's what happened. They looked at it and they said, what's this? Or we're eating, we say the whatchamacallit or the, who's he what's it or whatever. We have all these different ways to say it. Well, that was the Hebraic way of saying, what's this? So that's what they called it. Go get an omer of what's this and put it away and, and don't keep it till morning and all this other stuff. The what's this? The manna. Okay? Manna. Now, then they say, well, that's all well and good, all this coriander seed tasting stuff and, with honey and all this other things, and it's all delicious, and we really appreciate that, but we want meat. We want meat. They were looking for Arby's. We've got the meat. Okay, they weren't happy with the manna. They weren't happy. It wasn't enough that they were brought out of Egypt and saved from their slavery and delivered through the sea and given the commandments and all the other things and basically told for their foolishness with the land that you're all going to die in the desert. No, that wasn't enough to get their attention. It was the leeks and the melons and the cucumbers and onions and stuff. Really? And this is saying back in Egypt. Back in Egypt in our slavery, we had such abundance. What were they, like wealthy people in their slavery? It says all of their work that they did was with harshness. But here they are having a skewed memory of where they came from. All of a sudden, it looked so much better than it was. Okay, so they're complaining. And then we get to the end of the chapter. You know, there's other things that happen in between, but we get to the end of the chapter, and so they're whining. And here's the important thing. They're whining and complaining, and Yahweh does something really interesting, and this is something to be very scared of. He gives them what they want, then the plague. So just be careful when you whine and complain and you get what you want. It may not be worth what you wanted. Because while the meat was still in their teeth, Yahweh gave them an exceedingly great plague. And that's the key there. So yeah, we can learn a lot in here in the last couple of verses here in chapter 11 as we see what's going on with them whining about the meat. And of course, the leadership was very excited about this. So much so that the complaining pushed Moses to the end where he was about to kill somebody. And said, please, Yahweh, just kill me. If this is what I'm going to have to deal with, if this is what I'm stuck with, I can't feed them meat. Where am I going to get meat? And they're just going to drive me insane. They're never satisfied. And he said, look, why don't you just go ahead and kill me? Okay? If I've done anything, if I found favor in your eyes, verse 15, let me not see my evil. What was he saying? He's saying, my evil. What was he going to do? He was going to kill somebody. He said, I don't want to kill anybody. I'm trying to be patient. But these people are going to drive me to something I don't want to do. So I'd rather you just kill me so I don't have to do that. Okay, and then Yahweh says, tell you what, this is what we're going to do. Now, interesting, what he does after that is first, he decides to share the burden with the Ruach from Moses and put it on the elders. So first he's saying, well, Moses, I'm going to share the burden. We're going to make sure the burden is shared here. Okay? And that's very, very powerful thing there. The Ruach is put on the 70. And then, of course, this is where we first see them talking about prophesying. And what were they doing prophesying? Well, why was Joshua mad? Joshua was all bent out of shape out of all of this. Because they started to sound like Moses. Not because they were saying anything that was wrong. Because Moses said, what, are you jealous? In other words, because they sound like me? He didn't say, oh, be patient, they're new at this and they're just going off in wrong directions. He said, there's nothing to be jealous about here. I wish everybody would prophesy. So Moses thought they were doing good things. So what is prophesying? Speaking the word of Yahweh with authority. It is not specifically about the future and the Yahweh version of tea leaves or crystal balls and speaking the future, although that happens in prophecy occasionally when a prophet is sent to the nation or the king of a nation to say, if you're not going to straighten this out, this is what's coming. Or to say, you've already messed this up to the point where this is now coming. You see this in the prophets. But their main role was to say, but if you were to teshuvah, if you were to repent and get back on the path, it'll be okay. You'll still have to go through the punishment, but it'll be okay. And so we have that going on. So hopefully that's a long-winded way of hitting some of my points at the same time of answering the question that you brought. Now, Rabbi Thomas, you have a mic. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Sunday or Monday, I was reading in the JPS, and the wording that they had in 11:1 just hit me like a proverbial ton of bricks. It says, it didn't say the people were as complainers, but it says the people sought occasions to complain. They looked for reasons. That's very telling. That they couldn't find any, so they had to look for some.
Amen. And don't we see this still today? People are very quick to jump on any excuse to lash out, complain, and cause issue from that point of view. Absolutely. Okay? Absolutely. Steve?
And when you were talking earlier, you had a mention about people waiting for Abba to provide, but it doesn't mean we're supposed to sit on our hands and do nothing. We're supposed to go out and do what we need to do so he can provide.
Amen. Amen. All right, David, anything else in chapter 11? Otherwise, we can go to 12.
11, Norma Silva said, I don't know if I have it right chronologically. If they had animals for sacrifices, were they allowed to eat their animals otherwise, is that what they wanted, different kind of meat?
Well, I mean, look, the animals that were for sacrifice, excuse me, the animals that were for sacrifice were eaten by the Levites, and so they had that, and there were some that you could eat with them. Remember, the whole offerings thing had a variety of which ones and were eaten by who. And we talk about that in the first 6 or so chapters of Leviticus, okay, or so, the first few chapters there. But they were just looking for provision. We could even say, as Rabbi Tom pointed out, they were looking for reasons to complain or things to complain about. And they're thinking, well, why should I have to eat my cows? You provide me with manna. What are you going to provide me with? Provide me with stuff. Yeah, couldn't that be an even worse thing? Because they had cattle. Okay. Now, of course, if they ate all the cattle and they ate it faster than they were producing it or being able to maintain it, then they would be out of meat. But again, if you take Rabbi Tom's comment or understanding that was in the commentary he read, they were just looking for things to complain about. And many times you've experienced this in your life. I certainly experienced it in mine, as well as especially when I'm counseling, where I'll look at somebody like, I can't believe you are whining and complaining. You have it really good. What is wrong with you? You have it so good and you don't appreciate what you have. Husbands and wives, most of the people I counsel with bad marriages, it's because one or both are not appreciating what they have. And so they're just looking for reasons to complain and to fight and fuss over all kinds of stuff. Okay? And that is not good. Okay, David, any more?
See, Janet was wondering, why did Moshe tell Yahweh, why have you done evil to your servant?
In other words, why have you put me in a position where these people are just going to attack me and attack me and attack me and attack me? And it doesn't end there, because chapter 12, his own brother and sister do it. And they do it after the plague. Like they didn't even see the lesson there. Look, I've said this, and if you remember back to, I don't even know what teaching I said it was a long time ago. I'll say it now. Please don't be offended. It's an all-encompassing. It includes me. People are stupid. We are just stupid. We don't learn. We're dumb as dirt, stubborn as rocks, wrapped up in, we're self-possessed and wrapped up in ourselves and and Yahweh, and all these people who think that, oh, well, I'm in and I'm saved. So what, we're going to spend forever like this? The way we are now? I know another place that's described by people that sounds more like. Place that they say has fire and stuff. But it's worse than fire to be having to live with people and go through this torture. I don't know why they're worried about going to a place that they're already living in. I'm serious. Next question. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy, go ahead, come up here.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yep.
You know how you always want us to see how this applies to where we're at. So in a lot of your teachings, and I don't know where they are, about how Abba escalates his discipline of us if we're dumb as dirt or rocks, as stubborn and all that. So in 11, he says there are complainers and his displeasure burned. Yahweh heard it and his displeasure burned. And verse 1, and then when they get over to verse 10, his displeasure, the displeasure of Yahweh burned exceedingly. So I was making the connection because I've been hammered a lot lately, like that beaten thing, and the fire's turned up. And just what the word has taught us, that He'll discipline us, and then he'll discipline us 7 times, and then 70 times 7, and then his wrath. And so I'm always crying out of late and saying, Abba, please help me to learn before we get to the wrath part.
Amen. Listen, and the answer to all of this is appreciation. Okay? Look, every motivational speaker out there, everybody that talks about how you can get yourself into that shalom in your life, even if they're not talking from a scriptural point of view, they all say it all starts with an attitude of gratitude. Okay? That's a Zig Ziglar thing. But, it's appreciation. If you start your time appreciating before you can allow yourself to think about the things that you don't appreciate or don't desire in your life, your attitude's already going to be in a better disposition. You're already going to be angled and focused in a different way. I've told people that really struggle with some of their life situations, I said, look, when you wake up, start your day, either already have a list or write a new one every day and read it out loud of all the things you appreciate, and even things as simple as the fact that you woke up. Okay? And that you had a place to lay your head. And you had indoor plumbing. I mean, the stuff that we just take for granted. How about just appreciating all that stuff? Almost all of us, especially here in this country, should go take a trip to places where they don't have any of this stuff, and then you'll appreciate this maybe a little bit more. My wife visited family years ago that had dirt floors and had to sweep the dirt floors. Indoor dirt floors, okay? You would then appreciate having wooden or tile or whatever you've got, floors. Indoor plumbing. She visited the family in the same place where they had to go out in the middle of the night to the outhouse. Okay? That was not fun, she said. It's dark and you got to take a flashlight and the whole thing and try to, what if you don't even have a flashlight? And your mother with you, yes. She said she had to take her mother with her. Come with me, I don't want to go outside by myself. Okay, and we have indoor plumbing, refrigerators, stoves. All that. These are all things we take for granted. Even if yours is a little wonky and doesn't work so great, it's still better than not having one. And forget about how spoiled we are with the fact that we walk around with this device. Cell phones, the internet. I had a conversation with my son. He was trying to make some sort of typical, generational comment of how we had it better than him for some reason because, I don't know, whatever, he had some reason because the world has gotten worse and, because that's what will happen, right? You guys messed up everything for us. And I said, look, whatever you may say, this I hate to use the word, but this trumps it all, okay? This is like game over. You can throw anything you want out that you say we had that you didn't have, that gave us some advantage. We got paid a little bit more in real dollars, or we did this or that, whatever it is. Yeah, but you have this. Okay? You've got the internet, you've got your cell phone, you've got a tablet, you've got a computer. That, game over, we win. Because you've got stuff we never even could have imagined having. Okay? Look, I went to college and I had to do all my computer classes on punch cards. That wasn't fun, especially if the reader jammed or if you dropped your stack. Do not bend, spindle, or mutilate. Remember it said that on the cards or whatever it said? You got to be old enough to remember that stuff. My school didn't get PCs till I was done. Okay, or I guess they were using like Macs at the time or whatever they were bringing in, but colleges, I think, was using the Macs. But, but do we appreciate? We've got all this stuff, but we don't appreciate it. We just whine and complain. So you want to make sure that verse 1 of chapter 11 is your key verse. Do not be those people. The rest of the chapter tells you kind of some of the stuff they complained about. Who cares what they complained about? What matters is that they were complaining. What happened when they complained? They weren't trusting, not only weren't they appreciating, they weren't trusting the provider to provide. They didn't trust that Yahweh would provide. He'd already gotten them this far through incredible, literally indescribably incredible situations that only he could have gotten them through. And here they are going, this stuff is okay, this whatever, but I want something else. How about some more leeks and some onions and whatever else he says in verse 5, okay? But you don't want to end up being like that. But we do. You got to be careful of that. Okay? And they understand that if your leader starts to like have a little temper problem and get ready to pop his cork, he's feeling just like Moses. Please, Yahweh, just kill me. Because you guys come and complain about us. There's only one of me. There's a lot of you. Okay? And you only have to deal with me. I've got to deal with all of you. And there's not even that many. Moses had 603,000 just men over age 20. And he only got 70 to help him with that. It's still not a big number out of 2-3 million people, you know. But anyway, all right, so next comment or question. David, we're in chapter 11 still.
Chapter 11:25. Was the spirit of Elohim that was put on the 70 elders the same spirit we received when we embraced Yeshua and the Torah more abundantly?
Okay, first I want to package this by saying, read the verse. I'm not disagreeing with that. Just let's be clear. Because we have to start where it is and we're going to have to work our way backwards. Verse 25, and Yahweh came down in the cloud and spoke to Moses, that is, and took the spirit that was on Moses. Took the spirit that was on Moses and placed the same upon the 70. Okay? So what he did was he took not only the Ruach HaKodesh, which we see there was a different spirit in Caleb, a different one in Joshua, a different one in Moses, but he's also, the idea of spirit has to do with the intrinsic nature. So they took Moses' spirit, his nature, his attitude and focus towards Yah, and took that and shared that with the 70. So that they would have a little taste of that. But yes, so the answer to you is yes, but understand that it wasn't from Yah to them. It was Yahweh to Moses to them. All you people who think, oh, we just have the Ruach now. He always worked through the vertical structure. The spirit that was on Yeshua was then shared with his 12, and the spirit that was on the 12 was then shared with others. Okay? It goes down the chain. So the spirit that was on Moses was shared with the 70. Yahweh didn't just say, hey, Moses, remember what I gave you? I'm going to give it to these 70 now. He took what he gave to Moses and shared it. It gives you the same picture of the structure that I've been telling you for years now, okay? It's important that you see how that plays through. Okay, next question.
And along those lines, before receiving the Ruach, were the 70 elders simply attending to the people administratively, and then afterwards they could also teach with authority?
Yeah, think of it as giving you, as Yeshua calls it, the helper. I mean, they were given help to see and unlock more in their understanding of their minds to be able to speak the word of Yahweh with authority. Okay? Now, what gives you the ability to speak about anything with authority? When you speak with authority on something, what other things are already in play? Well, number one, you know the subject matter really well. You're very confident in your understanding of it, and you're very confident in your application of it. Whatever it is you're taught, whatever the subject is, you understand it, you know it really well, and you feel confident in how to apply it. These are all very new at all of this. These people are very new at all of this. And now with this, what was on Moses, who had a lot of confidence and knew what he knew and knew how to teach it and how to share it with confidence, that was now shared with these 70. So that they also, okay, call it like speed discipling. Okay? What was taken from Moses was now speed discipled into the 70. Okay? Does that make sort of sense? I don't think I've ever said it that way before. I kind of like that. That's good. Okay? That's not me patting myself on the back. I just think it's a good one for me to use in the future. I mean, it's a good, I think it's a good analogy. He was in such a terrible place. Yahweh said, for this unique situation, I'm going to speed disciple. I'm going to take your intrinsic nature and the spirit I've given to you, and I'm going to give it to them so they have the same confidence and competence to share my word with people. But he took it in a discipling way. He took it from Moses to them. That's the important piece here. He still didn't usurp or undermine his own structure that he's had in place, where he works through a person and then through other people through that person. Hopefully that's clear. And we see that play out in chapter 12, which you might as well just go to right now, where, his brother and his sister are like, oh, Has he not also spoken through us? Has he only spoken to you, Moses? Verse 2. And Moses, he didn't even know what to say. And actually, to his credit, he doesn't say anything. But Yahweh does. I mean, he must have just been incredulous, staring at his brother and his sister at this point. Like, really? Really? After all of this? After everything you've witnessed, you're going to do all that. And you see what happens. Moses, first of all, how would you like to be the ones where it says here that Yahweh came down and he called Aaron and Miriam? Could you imagine that? He says, you three, come over here. It's like your father coming down and you and your brothers and your sisters or whatever are messing around and getting yourselves in all kinds of trouble you shouldn't be doing. And all of a sudden you hear Dad's voice going, you three, come here. And you're like, oh, we're in trouble now. And Yahweh said, you three, over here, now. Whoa, right? And he said, let's be clear, Aaron, Miriam. I appointed this man. I speak to him in ways I don't speak to anybody else. How dare you question that and try to usurp that? Tell you what, be a leper for a little while. See how you like that. And so, interesting thing also that, and this is for everybody out there, and I want to just address a common misunderstanding. Okay, so Miriam gets, the shame put on her, because it's referred to as a shame, like even if your father had spit in your face, wouldn't she not be ashamed for 7 days? And she's put outside the camp, and then they're told that she was shut outside of the camp for 7 days, and the people did not set out until Miriam was readmitted. I can also read into that they did not go out there to visit her. Okay? She brought herself shame, and she needed to be outside the camp. The camp didn't go outside to then comfort her and coddle her. They waited till she was readmitted. This is a lesson to the body, because I have a lot of people in the body who say, well, somebody will visit somebody who had left or this or that. And by the way, these are almost never, since I don't think I've almost ever thrown anybody out. People just left on their own. And they're all like, oh, is Rabbi going to get all mad because you came to see me? No, look, I don't care who you spend time with. I might not understand it and not get it, but I don't really care. There are others in this congregation that care because they have more of the blue disposition, so they might be more emotionally about loyalty and stuff. But I do wonder, why would you spend time with people that are actively attacking, which is, in essence, they stepped outside the camp. So why would you? But I like them, and we're friends, and they're blah, 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 blah. Look, okay, whatever. This is Miriam. They weren't to go out to her either. Okay? I'm sure everybody loved her. I'm sure she had lots of family and friends and people that cared about her. I mean, Aaron was freaked out and panicked when it happened. It was begging for her to be okay. And that's, by the way, why Yahweh struck Miriam. You ever see in the movies, a lot of times it'll happen in like a, some sort of a spy-related type movie where the bad guy has somebody, and that person they have is like, hey, you can kill me, but I don't really care. He says, yeah, that's fine. I'll find somebody you do care about, and I'll threaten them. So I won't threaten you because you don't care about your own life, but I know you care about her life or his life, so I'll threaten that one. So, because you may wonder, why didn't Aaron get anything? Oh, he did. Yahweh knew how much he cared about his sister. So he got Aaron's attention by doing something to Miriam. You see? Because he knew how Aaron would react. Aaron was in a complete and utter panic, and it hit him. It got to his heart. Please heal her, please. Okay? And so that's kind of an important piece of all this. But just let's recognize those things that, first of all, let's not be complainers. If we're going to be complainers, recognize that the leadership may want to kill themselves. Maybe you want that, I don't know. It's up to you. Okay? That is terrible. Look, I have a lot of people out there that just have a real problem with leadership. Okay? But realize that ultimately the leader who put the leader in place, which is the creator of the universe, he will decide how that should be handled. And if you are overstepping and not treating his appointed people correctly, there's a reason David felt bad and knew he was wrong, even to sneak up on Saul and cut off his seat. Because he had still done something that was going against the anointed appointed, even though that anointed appointed had lost his mind and was trying to kill David. Okay? So you can't justify your behavior because the person you thought or believed to be appointed or anointed seems to have gone off in a direction you don't like. That doesn't change the level of respect you still need to have for that person. You don't have to stay under them. David left when, by the way, David left because Saul was going to kill him. There's lots of things Saul was doing that David didn't like, and he didn't leave. He didn't leave until Saul was trying to kill him. He knew that Yahweh would take care of it, and the cloud hadn't moved, and he was going to stay. He had every intention to stay until it was clear that he was going to get killed. He didn't want to believe it at first. But he was going to stay anyway. You know, this is an evolving, developing, flowing thing, this thing called the body. Look at Israel, good king, bad king, good king, bad king. It flowed and changed all the time. Now, when under a bad king, Yahweh never said, all of you need to leave now. The king is bad. No, it was part of him allowing things to happen because it serves a purpose. Some people think, well, why didn't you stop so-and-so from doing something? We've had some people come in and take people out and other things that have happened over the years. It's like because they're like Hasatan. They're useful to Yahweh to do what he does to cull the herd, okay, so to speak. Because people say, oh, but so-and-so who left is talking to all these people. Good, let them talk. And anybody that's supposed to leave will leave. Don't ever worry about how many people are here. Worry about whether or not you're here. I don't care about how many people are here. I don't. But Rabbi, you always ask how many people are online because I'm just trying to see if the numbers change in any radical way that maybe we're doing something that we need to adjust. It's just information that lets me know how things are moving forward or not. Okay, if we average on a Saturday, 600 or 700 computers, and all of a sudden there's 1,000, I want to figure out why. Or all of a sudden there's 200, I'd like to figure out why. Maybe I need to adjust something. I don't mean like tickle in the ear, but maybe there's something that I've done that's made a shift. It's something that to help you. It's just a measuring stick. Okay. But don't get too wrapped up in your emotional attachments to individuals. Individuals will come and go. And nobody hurts more than my wife and I over the years of seeing that happen because we get close to people and then they leave. But just understand what you're supposed to do. We're told that with a reviler, you're not even to break bread. That's a New Testament verse. Here we don't see it specifically. It says Miriam was put outside, let her be shut out of the camp. Shut out. She can't come in, which, by the way, has the intimation that you don't go out there. We're not going out there with, nice little baskets and things to help comfort her and everything else. While I know you're out here for a week, we feel bad for you. Don't feel bad for people that make their own choices and decisions. Why would you feel bad for them reaping what they sowed? Because the thing that they're going through, it's not because you should be glad they're being punished, it's because it's supposed to change them. And if you're going to coddle them and everything else, they're not going to feel the pain they're supposed to. You don't hear any more attitude issues out of Miriam when she comes back. Because she suffered appropriately with the leprosy and being put outside the camp. Yahweh got her attention. Okay? We had a situation a few years back. Somebody stormed out of the congregation. I could not believe not only how many people, but also specifically which people ran outside to comfort her after she completely attacked the leadership on Livestream to the point where people on Livestream called her Jezebel. This is a woman that went from seat to seat taking the mic out of people's hands so she can continue her diatribe. Okay? And I tried to convince her to stay. I said, don't leave. I said, if we can't figure this out, then we're not what we claim to be as a body. She left anyway. And then I couldn't believe the people running out to coddle her. I was like, was I against her? No. I was against you getting in the way of what is supposed to play out the way he designed it. With the same hope everybody would have, that the person would figure it out and come back in and everything be okay. I feel that way about everybody that's ever left. I hold no anger towards anybody. I really don't. Some of the blues do, but I don't, okay? I'm not angry, all right? Because I didn't get hurt by it. I was just disappointed by it, okay? And so it's a different sort of response. And then Moses had the same response. He was frustrated with not being able to give. What do I need to do to make these people happy? So they stopped complaining. Doesn't seem to matter what I do. They complain anyway. I know how he feels. Experienced that a lot. If I could only tell you the amount of help I gave most of the people that left, counseling-wise, hours of my life, financially that we gave, etc., you would be shocked. You would absolutely be disgusted and shocked. And to hear them attacking on the outside as if I did nothing for them. You would just be absolutely disgusted and shocked. And I'm not going to do that, but you just need to know, it's almost like if we help them, they're the ones that are going to leave. My wife says, yeah, it's true, because she's seen it. But look at the way they're whining and complaining at Yahweh. Why would we be surprised they're doing it still today? No surprise, you know. And there's going to be more of it. Nowhere in Scripture says it's going to stop until he comes, and even then, Gog and Magog enter the 1,000 years, and people do go. They still leave. Because you would think, well, certainly when Yeshua was here, that's never going to happen. There were people left him when he was in his ministry. It says, and all these people stopped walking with him. Remember those verses? After that, all these people stopped walking with him. He would say something, they didn't like it, and they stopped walking with him. They knew he was this great teacher. They knew he was a prophet. They maybe even knew he was Messiah. But I didn't like what he said. So he must not really be it. I'm going to decide, because I didn't like what he said, that he's not who he is, and I'm going to move on. Now you got a question, if you were here and you thought I was anointed and appointed, otherwise why would you be here? Then why would you leave? Either you were wrong initially or you're wrong now. Which one? Oh, but you changed. That doesn't work scripturally. Okay? All right, what do you got for chapter 12? Wait, somebody here had their hand up. Did I miss Kathy? And then Rick. Oh, and Rebitz and Joanne. Rebitz and Joanne, come up first. I got on such a roll, I forgot there were hands up before. Steve, help her with the mic. Okay, never mind.
Okay, I have a comment about what you was just talking about. That just hit me tonight when we read that Miriam was put outside the camp and they were not allowed to move. They wasn't allowed to go anywhere. And it hit me because one person was kvetching. They was caught doing the sin of Lashon Hara. It stopped the entire nation from progressing. And that just hit me. I was just like blown away by that we have to watch what we do because we can hold up MTOI by things that we're doing.
Amen. Appreciate that. And I also appreciate your Yiddish. Kvetching. Oh, did I hear that from my mother all the time? Stop kvetching. You're such a kvetch. And I was. Okay. But that's really what he's talking about here. As a matter of fact, I think Rabbi Tom did a teaching on that, called it, something about kvetching, okay? The other thing that I think I need to point out, which thank you, Rebitz and Joanne, for pointing it out because it brought it to my attention, not only did the camp not go anywhere, but you could even turn it around the other way and say they waited for her. They waited for her to finish what she had to go through. If you would just go through the process he wants you to go through, the camp will wait for you and not go anywhere without you. But of course, if you're going to go find another camp, another cloud and follow that, then, the camp isn't going to wait for you. Okay? All right, who's next? Rick? No, Kathy. Okay. Rick's too busy laughing, so he doesn't want to come up yet.
I just wondered, was the Cushite woman, was that just a red herring for their usurping, or was there something there? Because they say, well,
there's probably something to it that we're not fully getting. There's a lot of speculation out there that I could throw out there that wouldn't necessarily help. Okay? So we'll just leave it at that.
And the other thing, what I shared before about the discipline, they were talking in there, and they were actually lying, because they said we were in Mitzrayim and things were hunky-dory there.
Mm-hmm.
And it cost us nothing. Like being slaves to Pharaoh was no cost.
Right.
And then the last thing, they were not satisfied, which he has increased my gratitude, because whatever I'm eating, or like you said, you wake up in air conditioning, be grateful, because someday we may be having manna. That's it.
Amen.
And we better work on our attitude of gratitude now, because when it really gets tough,
Amen.
will we have any, what did you say, heart?
That's right.
To do
Amen.
it?
Amen. Look, and I've been, in places where there was no air conditioning. The first year I went across Canada, stopping by some of the potential and affiliate congregations of MTOI that were in Canada a few years back. It happened to be in the summer, and it was a heat wave. And generally speaking, when that doesn't happen, nobody in Canada needs air conditioning. And they're in Canada. Well, it was like 90 degrees in some of the places that I was in, and they didn't have air conditioning, and it was rough. I went from Manitoba all the way to the Yukon, and I was so glad to get to the Yukon, because it was only like 75 in the Yukon, or in that range. And it was like, because in Manitoba and Saskatchewan and in Alberta, it was in the 90s. It was ridiculous. Now, we don't think of it as so bad if you have air conditioning. But go someplace where there isn't, and all of a sudden you appreciate it really quickly. Okay? You can appreciate it really quickly. Okay, who's next? Rick. And you can fix the mic. I lowered it. No, the round. Yeah, just loosen that up and slide it up. There you go.
Okay, so my question, it goes back to 11, 25, and 26, something I didn't notice before that just jumped out at me. On the 70, the Spirit rested on them, that they prophesied, but did not continue. So was that a refusal? And then the other two men in the camp that the Spirit did go ahead and rest on, they were among those listed. They went ahead and prophesied. So why did the 70 stop? Is there something there we need to know?
All right. It's unclear if that's the meaning here or if it's the idea that, remember, you have two things happening. It was placed upon the 70, and then there's two that remained in the camp. So the question is, was it 72 or was it 70? And so the idea here could be that it came to rest on the 70, and then it didn't continue resting on anybody else until it got to the two outside that happened to be the two that were remained in the camp. So it's not really clear what stopped. They're prophesying or the people that were starting to get it. So it didn't look like it maybe hit all 70 at once. It was like bang, 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 bang. Then it stopped. And it had the two that were remaining in the camp. So it wasn't continuing to fill more people. So that's a possibility. Again, I'm guessing here, But that's one of the ways that we can look at this. But it's a good question, okay? Because they must have been doing something because, after all, Joshua is not happy. And he is jealous from a protective sort of way. This is what Moses does. Nobody else does this. You guys need to stop. I agree with Moses. I wish everybody could do what I do, or just like what he, what he was doing, he wished everybody could do what he does. Okay? And so speed disciple everybody, right? That's his choice, not mine. Remember, it wasn't Moses' choice either. Yahweh did the speed discipling. That's what we'll call it, speed discipling. Okay, instant discipling. All right, anybody else? What do you got, David? Chapter 12, are we almost done?
So chapter 12:10, was Miriam stricken and not Aaron? I'm wondering if so, why perhaps that may have been.
Okay, I explained that already. Okay, next one. Sorry, I'm not saying that in a condescending way, but I did explain that
You've covered
already.
all the other ones. So.
What? We're good?
You've covered.
Okay. Just to wrap up again in chapter 12, the prophet, verse 6, gets the vision. It says I speak to him in a vision, but the idea is he gets the vision. He's given a vision. Okay, the prophet is given the vision. The prophet sees the form of Yahweh. Not necessarily literally. He sees it. He gets it. He sees it clearly what Yahweh is all about and what he's trying to do. So there's an ability to see. There's a vision and the vision is the bigger picture where things are going, and the seeing is understanding how that's all going to play out, what needs to be done. Okay? And then we get to verse 8, which is Yahweh saying to them, why were you not afraid to speak against? My wife had to do this one time. She did this with a lady that was just absolutely just popping off about me for whatever reason. It had nothing to do with Torah. It had nothing to do with anything but some functional congregational stuff that was foolishness. And my wife had to walk up to her and say, look, if my husband's anointed and appointed, you need to be a little concerned over what you're going to bring on yourself. You need to maybe consider, easing up here. Because she was just on and on and on, She did it to my face first, so just like happens here. But then that wasn't enough when she realized that wasn't getting her anywhere. Because I just said, look, yell and scream all you want, but we're not making that decision that way. Believe it or not, this had to do with playing in a gym we didn't have a right to play in that we were renting, where equipment and people and babies had gotten hit already by balls that we had decided to stop playing. But she was against the decision and was really upset because her children needed something to do. It's after Oneg, after services. Take them home. I don't have to entertain your children. It's not part of the contract, and we do not have permission to do that in this building. We didn't. It wasn't even like an excuse. We actually only had a contract to run a service, not to turn it into a gym and start. There's different liabilities when the kids start running around and playing and throwing stuff around than just sitting and watching a service. Okay? So, anyway, but, let's all be careful of why were you not afraid? And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to use it as a weapon so that nobody will ever say anything about me, but you need to think about if you're going to say anything about any leader, that you might be bringing some stuff on yourself. Be careful with that. If Yahweh put that person there, and you don't know necessarily, but you always got to ask yourself, well, if he did, is it worth the risk for my attacking that person, speaking against them? That's the key there. The phrase is, why were you not afraid to speak against? That's in verse 8. Okay? I speak with him mouth to mouth and plainly, not in riddles, and he sees the form of Yahweh. So why were you not afraid to speak against him? So he's saying, look, he speaks to me mouth to mouth. Okay? So most people today do never get to do that. I understand that. But you know what else? He speaks plainly and not in riddles to teachers that he shows the understanding of those things that are in riddles. So to the teacher, it's plain. Whereas to the other people, it's riddles. So he does speak to them very much like this. If it's an anointed teacher, it's like mouth to mouth. It's like I say, I get for me, it's almost like an opening of a download where I just can see it and it's there, okay? And he sees the form of Yahweh. Not the cleft of the rock thing, but he sees what Yahweh is doing. He sees the form. In other words, the substance of what it's, okay, if I'm taking something and I'm putting these blocks together and they're supposed to fit a certain way, and when I finish doing it, it makes a person's face. but I couldn't tell by just taking the blocks and putting them together. What he's saying is that the ones that he works with, they see what this is building. They see what it's making. They know what they're doing in terms of the point of all of these things. So you got to ask yourself, as a teacher, is the anointed appointed someone who sees the form? The form. We've got words and texts and all this stuff in the scriptures, but what's the form or the substance of it? What is it making? What is it building? What's the picture? What's the structure? He says, if you see that that person is someone who's being spoken to this way and they see and do these things, why are you not afraid to speak against them? That's important. That's a question he asks, okay? All right, so I think that's going to cover it. I think that was really good. I appreciate everybody's participation and everything. All right. Okay, we need to just go ahead and close this up in prayer. Who wants to do that? Okay, Kip, come on up. You're up in the front here anyway, and just get you to come on up. Okay, Kip's going to close us in prayer, and then we'll go ahead and wave and say Shabbat, well, not Shabbat Shalom, we'll say Laila Tov and Shavua Tov. Go ahead.
Almighty Yahweh, we are before you again, and hopefully with humble hearts that are open to all of the words that you give us in Torah and through our wonderful teacher. And may we support each other and help each other. And we are so thankful for all the time that we get to spend with you and each other. In your son's name, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Kip. All right, I'm going to come out here and we'll... Actually, those who want to, can we just bring them up here? There's only a few of them. Okay, for those of you that want to wave, come on up here. We'll just do it that way. We'll get everybody just on Rick's camera this way. It's easier, I guess. Walk gently, darling. All right. Okay, so on 3, we're all going to wave over goodbye and everything. We're going to say Laila Tov, which means have a good night. Shavua Tov, have a good week. And then we'll tell them we love them. All right, we got that? Here we go. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Laila Tov, Shavua Tov, we love you.